Imagine this, a man who has everything, private jets, mansions, billions in the bank, suddenly finds himself sitting on a cold, rainy sidewalk, wearing ragged clothes, with nothing but a cardboard sign that reads, "Hungry. Please help." No one recognizes him. No one knows he's Alexander Harrington, one of the wealthiest men in the world. But in that moment of utter vulnerability, a little girl and her mother stop, look him in the eyes, and offer him something no amount of money can buy: genuine kindness. What happens next will restore your faith in humanity and leave you in tears. Welcome to our channel, where we share the most soul-touching, heartwarming stories that remind us of the power of compassion. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an inspiring tale like this one. And if this story moves you, and I know it will, drop a like, comment your thoughts below, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness always comes back. Now, let's dive into the story. Billionaire goes undercover as poor, a mom and daughter's kindness changes everything. Alexander Harrington was at the peak of his empire. At 45, he had built Harrington Tech from a garage startup into a global giant worth over $50 billion. He had luxury homes in New York, London, and Dubai. His days were filled with board meetings, private flights, and decisions that moved markets. But something was missing. Deep down, Alexander felt empty. His parents had died when he was young, leaving him a small inheritance that he turned into a fortune through sheer grit and long hours. But success came at a cost. He had no real friends, only business associates. His marriage ended in divorce years ago because he was always working. He had no children, no one to share his life with. Lately, he'd been reading about philanthropy, watching documentaries on poverty, and wondering, had he forgotten what it was like to be human? Had all the money hardened his heart? One night, alone in his penthouse overlooking the city lights, Alexander made a bold decision. He wanted to experience life from the other side. He wanted to understand struggle, kindness, and what really mattered. Inspired by stories of people who gave up wealth temporarily to find meaning, he decided to go undercover as a homeless man for 1 month. No credit cards, no phone, no safety net. He'd tell only his most trusted assistant, who would check on him discreetly from afar. He donated a huge sum to charity anonymously to ease his conscience, then packed a small bag with old clothes he'd bought from thrift stores. He grew a beard, dirted his appearance, and hit the streets of Chicago, a city far from his New York base, where no one would recognize him. The first few days were brutal. The cold bit through his thin jacket. Hunger gnawed at him constantly. People rushed past, avoiding eye contact. Some tossed coins without looking. Others muttered insults. Alexander slept in shelters when he could get a bed, or under bridges when he couldn't. He learned quickly how invisible the homeless become, how society looks through them. On the 5th day, exhausted and soaked from rain, Alexander sat on a busy sidewalk near a small diner called Mama's Home Cooking. His sign was simple, his stomach empty. He hadn't eaten since a stale donut from a shelter the night before. That's when he saw them, a young woman in her early 30s, carrying grocery bags, holding the hand of a little girl about 8 years old. The woman had tired eyes but a warm smile. Her coat was worn, her boots scuffed. The girl had curly hair tied in pigtails and a backpack that looked too heavy for her small frame. The little girl spotted Alexander first. "Mommy, that man looks really cold and hungry," she said loudly, tugging her mother's hand. The woman, her name was Sarah Thompson, stopped and looked at Alexander. Most people would have hurried on, especially with a child. But Sarah knelt down to her daughter's level. "You're right, Lily. Everyone deserves kindness, no matter what." Lily nodded solemnly. Sarah rummaged in her bags and pulled out a wrapped sandwich and a thermos. "We were going to have this for dinner, but there's a man who needs it more tonight." She approached Alexander cautiously but with genuine warmth. "Hi, sir. My daughter and I made extra sandwiches today. Would you like one? And some hot soup? Alexander looked up, stunned. No one had spoken to him like a person in days. His voice cracked as he said, "Thank you. That's very kind." Lily smiled shyly and handed him an apple from her backpack. "This is my favorite. You can have it." As they walked away, Sarah called back, "Stay warm, okay? God bless." Alexander ate that meal slowly, savoring every bite. It was the best food he'd ever tasted, not because it was fancy, but because it was given with love. For the first time in years, tears welled in his eyes. Over the next weeks, Alexander kept returning to that sidewalk near the diner. Not because it was the best spot, but because he hoped to see them again. And he did. Sarah and Lily became a regular part of his undercover life. Sarah worked double shifts as a waitress at the diner and cleaned offices at night to support Lily. Her husband had died in a car accident 3 years earlier, leaving her with debts and a broken heart. But she never complained. She taught Lily to be kind, to share what little they had, because kindness is the only thing that multiplies when you give it away. One evening, as snow began to fall, Alexander was shivering badly. He'd caught a cold, and shelters were full. Sarah and Lily spotted him again. "Mommy, it's the same man. He looks sick," Lily whispered urgently. Sarah didn't hesitate. She helped Alexander to his feet. "You can't stay out here tonight. Come with us." Alexander protested weakly, but they insisted. Their apartment was tiny, a one-bedroom in a rundown building. Sarah gave him the couch, hot tea, and medicine from their scarce supply. That night, as Lily slept, Sarah shared her story with Alexander, whom she knew only as Alex. She talked about losing her husband, struggling to pay rent, Lily's school needing supplies she couldn't afford. "But through it all," she said, "we have each other. And we have faith. That's enough." Alexander listened, his heart aching. He shared bits of his fabricated backstory, lost job, bad luck, but mostly, he just absorbed her strength. Lily woke once in the night from a nightmare. Sarah comforted her, singing a soft lullaby. Alexander watched from the couch, realizing this was real family, something money couldn't buy. Days turned into weeks. Alexander helped around the apartment when he could, fixing a leaky faucet with skills he'd forgotten he had, reading stories to Lily. He saw the challenges firsthand, Sarah skipping meals to feed Lily, Lily wearing hand-me-down clothes but never complaining, always drawing pictures for Mr. Alex to cheer him up. One day, disaster struck. Sarah got a call from Lily's school. The girl had collapsed. Turns out, she had a rare heart condition that required expensive treatment. The bills were piling up, and insurance covered only a fraction. Sarah was devastated, working extra hours but falling behind. Alexander wanted to help immediately, but he couldn't reveal himself yet. His experiment was teaching him too much. Instead, he encouraged Sarah, reminding her of her own words about kindness and faith. As his month neared its end, Alexander knew he couldn't leave them like this. But how to reveal the truth without shattering the trust they'd built? On Christmas Eve, with snow blanketing the city, Alexander asked Sarah and Lily to meet him at the diner after her shift. He had something important to tell them. They arrived, bundled up, faces flushed from the cold. The diner was closed for the holiday, but Alexander had arranged for it to be open just for them. Sarah looked worried. "Alex, what's going on?" Alexander took a deep breath. "Sarah, Lily, there's something I need to tell you. My name isn't just Alex. It's Alexander Harrington. I'm a billionaire. I came undercover to experience life without money, to understand what I've been missing." Sarah's eyes widened in shock. Lily looked confused. "I didn't plan to meet you," he continued, voice trembling. "But your kindness, the way you shared your last sandwich, opened your home, treated me like a person when the world ignored me. It changed everything. You showed me what true wealth is." Tears streamed down Sarah's face. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because I needed to know if kindness was real, not bought. And yours was the realest thing I've ever known." Then came the surprises. First, Alexander revealed he'd paid off all their medical bills anonymously weeks ago. Lily's treatment was fully covered, and she'd get the best care. Second, he handed Sarah keys to a beautiful new home in a safe neighborhood, fully furnished, mortgage-free. Third, a trust fund for Lily's education, college, whatever she dreamed. And finally, he established a foundation in their names, the Thompson Kindness Fund, to help struggling families with food, shelter, and medical care. Starting with $100 million. But the most emotional part? Alexander looked at Sarah with eyes full of vulnerability. "I've spent my life chasing success, but you and Lily taught me love. If you'll have me, not as a billionaire, but as Alex, the man you helped when he had nothing, I'd like to be part of your family." Sarah, sobbing, pulled him into a hug. Lily jumped in, giggling through tears. "Does this mean Mr. Alex is staying?" Years later, Alexander married Sarah in a simple ceremony. He adopted Lily, who called him Dad from day one. He stepped back from much of his business, focusing on the foundation that grew to help thousands. Alexander often said, "I thought I was going undercover to learn about poverty. But really, I learned about richness, of the heart." And Sarah? She reminded him daily, kindness changed everything, for all of us. What a beautiful reminder that no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. It can change a life, or even save one. If this story touched your heart like it did mine, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories every week, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. Comment below, what's one act of kindness you've given or received that changed your life? Thank you for watching. Remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. See you in the next story.